welcome back to another video. Guess what? I'm inspired, so I'm back to do another long form because you know what happened? I opened up my little reel maker. Wait, what is going on there? Oh, there we are. Um, and I was like, yeah, no, this is for a long form video. So, what am I going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about talking. I'm going to talk about why it's so easy for me to share vulnerably, essentially. Um, I have been posting on Facebook for like probably over 10 years. Well, 10 years, I would say now, about my kind of trauma experiences and the wisdom that I get from them, and life experiences and insights, whatever. If you're coming from Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever. I've been sharing in that way for like 10 years. Also, I'm kind of sick, so hope you don't mind that. I think it's so silly how we say that. I hope you don't mind it. Well, just leave if you mind. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, social conditioning. So yeah, I have been posting that kind of stuff for like 10 years, and what goes through my head when I share these things is okay, I see this feeling. Okay, I see this experience that I don't see outside of me. When I listen to this and I follow this, when I actually honor it and I walk where it tells me to walk, I feel more connected and mirrored in the subtlest of ways, indirect ways, like the way a symbol in nature will appear in front of my path in the perfect time, doing the perfect behavior, in a context that just makes symbolic sense to me. In other words, a sign or a confirmation. You've all had a sign before. You've all had moments, right? Well, maybe not all, but I'm sure most people watching this have had moments where you have prayed for something or wanted something, and then you see an animal, or you hear a conversation, or you see a license plate, or you see a rainbow, or lightning strikes at the perfect moment in the sky, in the midst of your prayer and your connection to yourself. That is one of my core anchors. That is why I feel like I can trust sharing vulnerably. Every now and again, I receive that kind of mirroring from people who possess the same or similar levels of depth and capacity and experience that I do. They're able to recognize me, and I'm able to recognize my experience and myself in them because we resonate on a certain level. However, for a lot of very highly sensitive people and highly pattern aware people like me, it does not come often. At some seasons in our life where people readily, consistently mirror that back to us. So, and I'm speaking for myself, but I know other people have this in common, so I'll just continue speaking for myself. And because that was my situation, I would find that kind of confirmation in nature, whatever, and it was just a feedback loop that built and grew on top of itself. And I learned to trust that what I have inside is actually supposed to be shared. And now it's even more obvious because of the amount of feedback that I get on my shares and stuff. Like, I've been sharing exactly the way that I share right now for years. Years. Like, at least a decade. I don't think I've been sharing this way for longer than a decade, actually. I think I started sharing this way when I was like 18, so I'm 28 now. I was 18 and I was freed from the troubled teen institution that I was legally kidnapped and sent to um, in 2015. And yeah, so I was 18 when I escaped there, and I don't know. I don't know when it started, whatever. I remember being in the institution and they had like something called like the peer group or group therapy or whatever. And the one thing that I did get from that is actually recognizing my leadership capacity, because I noticed how the people in the house, the staff and my peers, um air quotes because it's like a charged word. It's a charged word for me in this context. But I noticed how these people would respond to me, and I recognized like I have something valuable to share, and people look up to me and people see themselves in me, and people look to me and they feel calm, they feel inspired, they feel whatever they feel. And I'm like, I'm not here preaching anything out of my behind. I am sharing my perception. I'm sharing my insights. I'm sharing my wisdom. I'm sharing my processing. And that comes from my lived experience. I do not speak about what I don't embody. And if I do, it's usually obvious because I will say so. Um, and that was kind of, I think, like probably one of the first experiences that I had where I was like, I felt needed. I felt respected and I felt admired in a group situation. And I felt this own like my own kind of like sovereignty and authority kind of. And that was also the first time in my entire life that I have ever cried in front of anybody except for my own mother when I was like a child. Um and I remember even when I was a kid, I don't even know how old I was, but there was a point I like stopped crying in front of my mom. You know, narcissism tends to make children stop crying in front of the narcissist because that's what narcissism does. Weaponizes emotions. Anyway, so I felt that, and then I think things kind of maybe something maybe locked into place there, and I felt like, oh, this is where this is my position. Like, this is how I am. This is how I'm perceived. I guess. So I don't know. I started sharing my experiences and stories on Facebook and some on Instagram, and I would get people like messaging me and commenting like, this made me feel validated, this made me feel seen. Um and that's just how I like to share. Um a bit of a tangent. If you're into astrology at all, I believe this is my astrology section up here, these books. Um if you're into astrology at all, um you're gonna get what I'm about to say, but if you're not, then hang tight. But in Vedic astrology, my moon is in my 11th house in Virgo. If you're an astrology person, you can probably already connect the dots. But what does this mean? It basically means for me that my emotional constitution is most alive and active, and I am most nourished when I'm sharing. Specifically in groups of women, friendship groups, communities, societies, whatever. The 11th house is the house of almost like global communication. Also, the internet, too. The 11th house is a house of technology, innovation, social media, friendship, community, um, communal kind of circles, networks, social networks, partially. And Virgo is patterns, 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 meticulousness, categorization, systemic systems, categories, um, and the moon is, feminine, so connected to females, to women. So female friendship groups, naming patterns, wearing my heart on my sleeve. I'm just kind of wired this way. I'm wired to share my emotions publicly, visibly, and to speak them and name them. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, and Mercury governs communication, intellect, things like this. So, yeah. And then also, I have Mercury in Sagittarius in the second house. My stability, my livelihood, my wealth, my security comes through naming truths, speaking truths. So it's in my chart in multiple places, and it validates who I already am. Um, so I have that about me. That's part of why it's easy for me to be vulnerable, to speak. And this is my story. Um, you know, Another reason why it's a more universal reason why it's kind of more natural for me to speak vulnerably is this thought that happens or has happened when I've been in situations where I'm at absolute rock bottom and I feel hopeless. I don't feel mirrored. I don't feel attuned to. I don't feel seen. I don't feel witnessed. I don't feel, did I say validated? I don't feel held. And that has been most of my life with people. I have experienced this with people. I certainly have profound, beautiful moments. But I find in relationships, most of the time, I need and want to share more of it than is necessarily available in the relational formats that I had with people. But whatever, there's nuance there. There's lots of nuance there, actually. And I have experienced like profound, rich connection with people through social interactions, and it's most of the time those interactions were never logical or intellectual. They were all felt through rhythm, um, the pulse of life, dancing, singing, experiencing, non-linear, non-lingual, non-verbal, non-conceptual. Well, maybe there were concepts there, but like, you know, in a body level, in an animal sensing, feeling, just kind of being level. Some improv spaces, spaces where I can be intuitive instead of being analyzed or being analytical, stuff like this. And I'm also a very musical person, and I don't currently have a musical community, but some of the most connected times I've ever experienced in my life were in situations and communities where I was musically jamming or singing with people that I felt musical chemistry with. And I have such a specific kind of music taste and an ear, that I find it very rare to find musicians that I feel that chemistry with, because, many people love singing and dancing and stuff together, but not many people share a taste in music that I do. And this is actually a huge one for me. I mean, when I was a kid, I always hated uh, like Sirius XM or like radio or like pop music or whatever. Like, I don't know. Do you remember being a kid in like school, middle school, whatever, going on a field trip and the bus driver plays like some popular pop music and all these kids on the bus are like dancing and singing or whatever and I'm just like it's like it's painful. Um ugh. When my mom used to drive me to school when I was in middle school some mornings, the only thing I could tolerate early in the morning, the only sound I could tolerate was like 20s or 40s music, gentle, fuzzy, jazzy, some Rhodes, some um, Rhodes piano, some like gentle drum brushes, and some like jazzy female, like wispy voices, like, you know, sounds didn't that I didn't like literally caused me discomfort, like agitation, huge agitation. When I was in the troubled teen institution in Utah, we drove everywhere in a white fucking van. How like stereotypically crazy is that? We drove everywhere, yes, in one of those white vans. A van full of scapegoated girls. Yeah. And the staff would play the radio and like this shitty pop music. No shade to artists, who create from their hearts and souls, but yeah, no. Yeah, so they would play that music and I really didn't get a say in what played because if I did, the radio would always be off. It would always be off. But yeah, so that was painful. Um, but all of that is to just say that music and rhythm and very specific sounds are one of the ways that I would feel most connected to people, and I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it. There was this artist residency in North Carolina that I used to go to a couple times a year for a few years in a row when I was like 19, 20, 21, 22. And those were some of the most soulful, attuned, connected, elevated spiritual experiences that I'd ever had. Being up on that hill in the main man's kind of studio, jamming with these like eclectic, absurdly talented musicians. The place is called Snaggy Mountain. Moses Sumney shot um, one of his I don't know which album, but like one of his album music videos on the property there, and um, there have been like musicians from like Snarky Puppy and like other bands and whatever. Like literally everybody that comes through there is like absurdly talented, and it's kind of this blend of like folky, jazzy, whatever, funky, and I just love that. I just love that. And we would jam every night, and there would be someone playing something, and I would sing. I would like improvise and sing and just float into it and melt into it, and it was just like pure ecstasy. And it's always been a dream of mine to share that specific type of musicality with an eventual family. Like I've fantasized about a life that I never got to live. I fantasized about like being in a band with my family, but obviously that's not an option. My brother's a musician. My dad was, he passed away, but he was, pretty like jazz oriented. I don't think he played anything, but I know he listened to a lot of the stuff. When I was younger, my mom used to hear the music that I would listen to, and she would always tell me, she's like, Daddy would love this. Daddy would love this. And my mom even took up like drumming and singing lessons, when I was in maybe middle school or something. So, the musicality is somewhere there. Um, it's definitely in me. And then also, if you're into astrology, again, my fourth house, I have Aquarius in my fourth house, and I have a Jupiter, Uranus, and Mars in Dhanishta in Aquarius. And Dhanishta is a nakshatra. If you don't know what a nakshatra is, I'll try to explain it to you. In the zodiac wheel, we have 12 houses, 12 signs. That would be Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, blah, 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 whatever. What's your sign? Oh, I'm a Scorpio, whatever. Okay, there's 12 of those. And within that wheel, that's divided into 12. That same wheel is divided into 27. And each of those 27 divisions is a nakshatra. So each of the 12 zodiac signs, if you do the math, has anywhere between 2 to 3 nakshatras per sign. And in Aquarius, one of the Aquarian nakshatras or stars is Dhanishta, which I think means something like rhythm or something. So, literally, in my house of home and family and belonging and ancestry and origin and comfort and home, also emotionality, is rhythm, music, pulsing life. I have a stellium, aka a stellium is 3 or more planets in any sign or house. And what does that mean? That means that basically just sharing my sound, my rhythm, my sensing, dancing, music, but not just any dancing or any music. It's like my felt lived experience of sound and rhythm. When I can connect and attune to other people from that space, I feel complete. I feel whole. It's like everything I want. And I think that like horses connect somehow to the maybe Dhanishta Nakshatra or maybe the fourth house as well. I forget exactly what the connection is, but I'm also a passionate equestrian, a horse person, even though I haven't been around horses in a couple months. That's a long story. It's a separate thing, but like it's another thing for me. But you know what I have lacked in feeling mirrored or feeling encouraged to speak and be vulnerable in direct conversations with people, I have directly experienced through music and movement of a particular kind. It's like so powerful for me. And it's not often that I find people in spaces who I can be that part of myself in. I went on a huge tangent there, but I'm talking about why it's easy for me to be vulnerable and to speak how I speak. And I was talking about when I'm in those unmirrored spaces. And that's where I went into music, because I'm like, oh, even when the people don't mirror me, I have the music and the rhythm and the dance. But when I've been in the pits, so to speak, of those moments when I'm not mirrored by people or when they dismiss me or whatever, and it freaking hurts, I have this feeling and I'm like, okay, the fact that I'm experiencing this insufferable pain right now means that somebody else, excuse me, on this planet is experiencing the same thing. There's not enough water in there. So that means that I can separate my self-identification from the pain and recognize that this pain that feels like it wants to squash me and that nobody else around me is able to validate or help me separate from myself is actually not a personal limitation or a personal sign that something is wrong with me. It's a pattern that I'm noticing. It's a dynamic that I'm sensing. And because I'm aware of that, I can dig in deeper pick it apart, and name it. And by doing that, I alleviate the pressure of it on me, and I share it with other people who see themselves in what I have just named, and thusly, consequently feel validated and feel relieved the same exact way that I did. And again, this is just kind of the way that I'm wired. And it's a passion of mine, and I love speaking. I love articulating. I love patterns. I love naming patterns. I love sharing them because it empowers me and it softens me, and it also brings clarity to other people. And it makes us all feel less alone. And it gives us more courage because what's. Did you hear that? I don't know. My honey just did the loudest little like crackliest little cat swallow, you know? Cat mouths are always so crackly and dry. It was so dramatic and funny and silly sounding. So anyway, yeah, that's why I share. I share because I'm like, literally, I recognize when I'm feeling pain. I'm like, the fact that I'm experiencing this means that someone else on earth is experiencing this too. And one last thing that I'll say, and then I think I'm going to end this, is that clarity, being able to name a thing, see it, and form a relationship to it other than one that imposes or superimposes your sense of self onto that thing. Does that make sense? Being able to have clarity and to name a thing basically just helps you not feel crazy because you're not identifying with the thing, you're seeing the thing. So you're not superimposing your identity onto the thing and becoming enmeshed with a dynamic that's hurting you. You're naming it. So it's you and it's the dynamic that you're feeling. And not everyone can really do this very easily. And that's where my pattern naming comes in handy for people who maybe struggle with it. And another reason that I like to do it, because it's like, it feels powerful to be of service. And it's just satisfying. It's just so satisfying to do. And when you're able to clearly see a thing for what it is, thusly separating yourself from the painful thing, that painful thing loses its grip, loses its control over you and your identity, because you realize, I'm still Aaliyah, I'm still Michelle, I'm still Bob, I'm still myself. I can actually create the life that I want. I can go to the park if I want and enjoy looking at the trees. I can go to an event and enjoy talking to new people, because this anxiety that I have now separated my identity from, even though I still feel the tremors, I still feel them through my body, I actually realize that I'm not that thing. So I'm free to go live my life. I can feel the thing and I can pause and allow the thing to send its charge through me, because that's what emotions do. They buzz. They are electric, they need to discharge and move through the nervous system. And it can be really awkward sometimes to discharge or be with certain emotions when they're so huge and so big and you can't separate. It's like you can't see. When they're like this and this is your face, it's like, I can't see anything that's over there because the emotion's over here. It's behind you. You can't see it because you're in it. But the more you separate, the more you start to see it. When it's over here, it's like you still can't see it because you're too close. But when you're over here, it's like, oh, that's what that thing is. And then when it comes in, you recognize the pattern. So you have a map, you have a blueprint for what that emotion, what that thing is. The more that you become aware of what this feels like and what this feels like, the more clarity you're going to have. I hope that made sense. And what clarity does is it creates psychological, emotional protection. Because get this, next time anxiety comes and glomps onto you, you can be like, oh my God, I'm feeling so anxious right now, but I recognize that anxiety is like taking over my body. And so I'm going to like go into a safe space, talk to a safe person, eat grounding foods, go for a walk in nature, breathe. I'm going to do my tools while the anxiety is here wreaking havoc. The more clarity you have, the more you're able to become aware of these things, the more you're able to remain kind of like intact in sovereignty in your own central column when this emotion comes and attacks you, instead of it being a fight. Instead of it being this dynamic where you think that this is you, but no, this is you. This is the feeling. And when they're like this, you think this whole thing is you, but it's not. It's just you and the feeling superimposed. So again, this is why I love naming these things, because I've lived this. And I've also lived it where I look like this and I walk into an office or into a friendship or a relationship and someone sees this and they think it's me, but they don't have the discernment to recognize that this isn't me. This is me and an experience. And to riff off this even more, I once upon a time had a therapist who couldn't discern the difference between this being me and this being what it actually was, which is me and my experience. I really hope that resonates for some people and screws in some light bulbs and turns them on, because having the level of awareness and the capacity to see, just to see in general, to see clearly, requires a level of spaciousness, curiosity, safety, the right conditions to achieve. And that can come through practice and skills, but it can also come a lot through predisposition. And I do think I'm predisposed to a lot of that stuff because of just how sensitive I've always been. And not everybody is born as the sensitive, you know? There's a reason why the term HSP, where's that book? I have a book. I don't know where it is. There's a reason why the term HSP, highly sensitive person, was coined in the last, I don't know how long. Is because there's a population of people that is, you know, distinguished from other people, whatever that means, because of their highly sensitive traits. And I'm one of those people. Whether you want to call me a HSP or not, I don't care about the labels, because I'm like, this is just my experience and I'm living it, but the labels help people to feel, you know, seen and contained in their experiences, so they're good for that. So my last point here, I've really been dancing around it, is that the more clarity we have to distinguish our true selves and our constant selves from our fluctuating emotional selves, states, experiences, the more clarity we have, the more space we have. And space creates protection psychologically, mentally, emotionally against those inner demons or those insane, intense emotions. Doesn't mean you don't feel it, but it means that you can feel it and remain grounded while you're feeling it. Or more consistently throughout your journey of processing that feeling. Doesn't mean you're going to feel grounded 24/7. I spiral sometimes too, like I'm not perfect at this, but it's a skill that has just deepened over time. And I mean, there are levels that I haven't mastered, so it's kind of an evolving type of thing. So lastly, the reason why I love speaking vulnerably is because it helps people get that clarity so they can protect themselves against manipulation, against distortion. Distortion is like an attack on our immune system as a society, our emotional immune system. And if clarity is the antidote to distortion, then that means that our emotional immune system as a society, aka our interconnectivity, our satisfaction and fulfillment in our interdependency, all that good stuff, our emotional intelligence as a whole, it can become stronger because there is less distortion interrupting our immunity. And that's what naming patterns and speaking vulnerably can help other people do. So if this inspired you to pick up your microphone, your camera, your phone, and start recording videos, post on Instagram, post on YouTube, write on Facebook, on Substack, Tumblr. I hope that you will be encouraged to tell your stories. Because if you are someone who feels clarity in the things that I say, and there's a story inside of you, I wish that you would share it. And I wish that you would just click out of this video knowing that if you're feeling and experiencing something, there is somebody else on planet Earth who will feel seen and validated by your experience. And it might not be obvious. For me, I would get occasional feedback, like I mentioned earlier, sharing on my Facebook and this and that. But there was a time, and actually it was like in the last year or 3 maybe, especially the last year when I got sick. And I started calling out the behaviors that were toxic in some friend groups that I had, like watching me suffer and be debilitated and nobody's helping. I had a lot of people watching me on the internet while my body was shutting down. And a lot of people didn't do anything. And a lot of people offered things, but then ghosted me. And I talked about it. And the more I talked about it, the less engagement I got online. So for months, like I had stretches of time where I was so discouraged from posting because I was literally like, and I still kind of feel this feeling or think this thought now, and I'm just like, am I hated? Like, do people hate me? Maybe some people hate me, but no. I mean, I have a lot of support online. I have a lot of people who resonate with me. But yeah, no, that's a hard one. I really felt like people hated me because people started to just ignore me where they used to engage with my shares. And I used to get so much more feedback on the stuff that I shared. But I started posting more authentically, harsher truths than I have ever shared before that directly confronted pretty much most of the people who were close to me because they were all doing these bullshit patterns and like neglecting me basically. Not acting with integrity, like acting like a friend but like not checking in on me or like asking what they could do or not trying to help or like I started to name this thing that I noticed happened with a lot of people in my life too where like they used to like love spending time around me, talking to me, whatever, because they got something from it and like I was nice and open and happy to connect, and so I just kind of would be there connecting with them. And when I got sick, those people kind of like stopped showing up as much, and it was like they just wanted something from me, and it became extremely obvious. And I also noticed that like as soon as I felt one day where I had more spoons last year, if you don't know what spoons is, it's like the amount of energy that you can afford to spend in a day, and you only have like 10 spoons, so you can use 5 spoons on going to the grocery store to buy a jug of milk, and 2 spoons to take a shower, and you have 3 spoons left, so you can either cook a meal or call your friend, and that's all your spoons for the day. And that's kind of like what spoons is. um, and when I had a day, I think it was like in April, after almost like losing my life in like January throughout the rest of the spring and whatever, I finally had a day where I had enough more spoons to like take myself out to. I went to this like craft show, and there was also a dog show happening there. So I dressed up, I did my makeup, and I like got fresh, and it was like the first day in months that I had the energy to drive myself like more than like 10 minutes. So I drove 30 or 40 minutes to this thing, and I was just going to walk around and just enjoy being with myself. And I posted a photo of myself, and I was like, wow, the influx of comments and likes that I got from people was really illuminating to me, because it showed me that like all of these same people who commented things like, I miss you, you look so good, I love you, whatever, let's connect. They commented that on the picture of me that I posted on the day that I had the most spoons that I had in like 4 months. But they didn't see any of my other, they didn't, well, they saw, but they didn't comment on any of my other fucking stories. I love you, I miss you, let's talk, how are you? No, they just showed up on the one where I looked pretty, and all of a sudden they wanted my attention. You know? Like, so when I started to name that shit, people got silent, real silent again. And sometimes I would post things, and I bless these 2 people. Literally, I can think of 2 people who've always just been kind of supportive and kind towards the things that I post. And they were there. They would like my stuff, they would comment, they would send me messages now and again. But it really did a number on my almost conviction in like my sharing, in my like thought of like whether I should or shouldn't share. Like it did a number on that, seeing how people just like stopped engaging with me as much as they used to. And I'm guessing it was because a lot of the people that were indirectly called out by some of the newer things that I was talking about after almost losing my life and seeing into a world of new patterns, they felt called out, so they stopped engaging altogether. But I posted anyway when my spirit called me to post, and I created YouTube videos, and I would do intuitive readings and share like soul messages. Some people call them prophetic messages, and I think I titled maybe 1 or 2 prophetic message, whatever, and it's like specific messages for specific people at specific times. And I I didn't I didn't give up on God. I didn't give up on my calling. I didn't give up on this truth. I have like almost 35,000 followers on Instagram. It's April. In December, I had 2,200. 2,200. I posted 1 reel, it went viral, and I rode that momentum, and it just kept growing. And I was like, this is, God is giving this to me because I'm ready to steward it. Because I showed up. I showed up in the year when everyone stopped engaging. I named patterns that left me isolated for months, questioning whether I should share or not, and I continued to share anyway. Not for never for validation. Never for validation. But because God called me to share. And so I take this very seriously. Very seriously. And that's why I want to encourage the shit out of you. If you have a truth in your heart, it is not there in vain. It is placed in you for a reason. Okay? You are not here to receive validation. You are here to honor the voice inside, the voice of God, the voice of your soul, your spirit, and give it expression. If people don't like it, that's not about you. You can grieve, you can recoil, you can retract, you can protect yourself. You're allowed to hurt. Yes, I send you hugs. I'm giving you hugs because I've been there. It's not fun. It's not comfortable. Nobody shares to people wouldn't share if they did it for validation, if they knew that no one was going to engage or comment or whatever. But that's kind of why I'm making this video too, is to like tell you the truth. Like, I'm not here because I did want to get famous. I did want to get popular. I did want visibility. I did want the recognition I deserved. And I did want to reach the people that my messages were for. And I did want to feel that impact. And I am, and I have. But I did not arrive there off of empty motivations. I arrived there off God's instruction, aka the motivation in my soul. I am not speaking to please people. I am not speaking to hide. I'm not speaking to posture. I'm not speaking to impress. Although what I say is impressive. It is. I like what I say. I like the things that I say. But I don't do it to be seen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do it to be validated. I do it because, as I've said throughout much of this video, my logic, my motivation was, if I'm a human being experiencing this thing, I need to share it. Because if someone else on this earth is feeling as cripplingly lonely and in pain as I am, and me sharing can provide a mirror for them that I'm not able to get, but maybe I can give it, that is enough of a reason for me to want to share. I think my cat's going to meow at me soon. She's staring at me intently. I think she wants me. I think she wants food. Yes, Mama. So listen, if you are wanting to get viral, not for the sake of followers, but for the sake of having your message reach the crowd that it's meant to reach, especially if you know in your heart that you're meant to. I always knew that I was meant to reach an audience. I always knew it. I've had visions and fantasies about speaking on stages in front of crowds of thousands of people. Maybe one day I'll do that in the flesh, but like, I'm doing that right now. The proof has finally come, after a decade of knowing this, that my messages have somewhere to land. And I went 10 years without that. I would get glimpses here and there. And even on my YouTube channel, look at my videos. I don't have a lot of views on many of them. I'm not like YouTube famous by any means, but I've been posting on here for years too, long form videos. And I do it because if I can impact one person, even for 30 seconds, then that's, God bless God, you know? Thank you God for orchestrating that. That's what I'm here for. So the last thing that I'll leave you with is this. If you resonate and you feel that call in your spirit to share, please, please, please share. And maybe you're thinking, okay, I'll share. I'll feel inspired, but how do I know it's the right time to share? Or how do I know I'll be okay after I share and then I get that vulnerability? Great question. Remember this analogy, the true self and the emotion? Pay attention. Pay attention to the pattern. Just start to track the pattern between your God-given impulse to share your story. What does it feel like? Does it feel sparkly? Does it feel inspirational? Can you breathe easier when you feel that? Can you fantasize about it? When you think about it, does it fill you with hope, joy, aspiration? Identify that part. Write its qualities down on paper if you need to. Track it in your body. When you have moments where you feel the Holy Spirit calling you to share, to step into your purpose, to speak, to sing, whatever it is that you're called to do. My cat is just such a queen. She's like my biggest supporter. Like, she's just an angel. Just her presence is just angelic. And I looked at her and I was like, this is my guardian angel, just like watching me with love. She's literally beaming love at me right now. Can you see her? She's just sitting here giving me her love eyes. We've been together for like 17 and a half years, guys. We've been together this is the longest relationship I've ever had. Anyway, start to distinguish the difference between that part of you and the part of you that recoils. What does that recoiling part feel? What does the doubtful part feel like? Where does it live in your body? How does it move in your body? Does it have a color? Does it get triggered when you think of certain fantasies? Does it get triggered when you feel certain things? Because this guy is a survival mechanism, a primordial, possibly demonic survival mechanism designed to overshadow you. So when you ask yourself, how do I know it's really my calling? Clarity. Point a finger at both. Begin to train yourself to recognize the difference. And it's that simple. When you know the difference, you can act in integrity, even when that thing, that demon, that inner demon is like this. You can still feel yourself. This is what resilience is. It's being here and knowing what you are, even while this thing is too heavy to lift. And that's why I share anyway. That's what helps me share anyway. That's what got me through the year that I almost died last year, 2025. I lost all my friends. I became estranged from my entire family. Except for my brother, but that's a different story, and I don't want to get into it, but that's not even fully there. Like, it's sad. But being able to identify the difference between God, true identity, true self, infinite love, whatever, that's you. That's you. And the fears, the egos, the emotions, the fluctuating states, the inconsistent realities of being human, the permanent and consistent and the inconsistent. The more you know the difference between the two, the more confident and trusting you're going to be when it comes to knowing whether or not you should share on YouTube, on Instagram. So I hope this helped you. Please leave a comment if this gave you some kind of, I don't even want to say gave you. Please leave a comment if you feel inspired. Please leave a comment if you remembered something while watching this, if you had some kind of insight, or if you feel like a new like a sense of confidence to share your story, or if you were able to um identify the difference between you and maybe like something that you're struggling with. And if you felt that freedom in that space, like share your story. Maybe somewhere you can start is in the comments, because someone else is going to read your comment and maybe be helped by it. But speak from your own experience. Don't make stuff up. Speak if from what is alive inside of you. And if there's nothing there to share right now, then don't force anything. Don't force something. Like, people have to stop forcing themselves and performing. This can't be forced. It's something that can only be responded to. For me, maybe it's different for you, but I can't force this. I can only respond to it. And there are some times when, even though I know something is true, I also know that it's not the right time, because this guy has got such a grip on me that if I did share, it would get even tighter. And I'm already in a vulnerable position, so I need to wait for me to kind of have some space between it so I can re-strengthen, and when it comes, I can deflect it, better than I could if I was already vulnerable. So there's that too. So if you like this and you're not following me on Instagram, check out my Instagram. You will like my short form content, I think, because a lot of it is in the same similar vein as this. And yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go. Okay, thanks. Bye.